Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. This morning, lots of news. Biden and black voters are at a crossroads, and the GOP is putting its spin on the January 6th insurrection, and it's awful. A federal appeals court on Monday also ruled against a key tool used to enforce the Voting Rights Act, possibly setting up another Supreme Court showdown over one of the nation's landmark civil rights laws. And ASAP Rocky, what are you doing? Rihanna's man is going to stand trial on 2 felony counts. Wow. The judge ruled yesterday on that case. We'll bring you information on that. And the Gilgo Beach. If you're from New York, or really, it's been in the news anyway. Maybe you've heard of the Gilgo Beach murder suspect. Well, his family, his wife and kids are cashing in big time on this situation. This guy's not even gone to trial yet. We'll tell you about that. First, another quick note, an interesting point that I found in the Cassie Diddy lawsuit. She, in her statement, I think was widely overlooked. She mentioned the New York law, the look back law, and she also mentioned that she wanted to really heal with her kids. And the New York law is about to expire. It's called the New York's Adult Survivors Act. There's a 1-year window that's provided for victims of sexual abuse or child abuse. A year ago, it went into effect, I should say, a year ago on the Thanksgiving holiday, which is now just 2 days away, and that's when it expires. And so the case had to be accelerated. Apparently, there had been she had been seeking, in her words, seeking justice, and this was her last shot at justice. So just to put that to bed, one way or the other, whether you understand, whether you agree with her or side with her or side with Diddy, this had an expiration date that had to have been met, regardless of what side of the fence you stood in. But other lawsuits were filed in New York this month, including against Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler, music executive L.A. Reid, and former Grammy chief Neil Portnow, among others. There's a total of 275 lawsuits, I believe it was. I could be off a little bit on the number. That was filed just this month. And since New York enacted that 1-year look back, one report said more than 2,000 suits have been filed. Of course, we and the media tend to bring only the high profile ones, but there have been others. Seems like that look back law, it was doing what the Me Too situation was supposed to do, and that was about men in particular taking advantage of women in the workplace, not about Hollywood. Hollywood, it gets our attention, but this New York look back window has proven, depends on, again, how you view it. If you are for it, it's been very effective. And if you're against it, it's been a nightmare. So that's just to put a footnote on to the whole Cassie Diddy situation. Now, moving on to politics this morning, the share of black voters who have chosen Republican presidential candidates has been low since the 1960s after President Lyndon Johnson, a Democrat, signed landmark civil rights legislation in 1964 and was elected to a full term later that year. Since then, the black electorate has overwhelmingly sided with Democrats, with candidates earning 70% or more of the black vote. And in 2020, 12% of Black voters only sided with Donald Trump. 87% chose Biden, but more than 94% of Black women chose Biden in the 2020 election. The win was so crucial to the Democrats that the party moved up the primary election for South Carolina, which is a nod to the Black voters in the state who helped secure Biden's nomination in 2020. Now, many are weighing in on what Biden must do to reassert himself within the Black community. His job approval rating is at a near all time low among registered voters. 40% approve of his job performance, 57% disapprove. The Biden campaign insists it understands. Quentin Fawkes, who is the principal deputy campaign manager for the president, said in an interview that hundreds of millions of dollars have been committed to reaching Black voters. Much of it will be through radio and television ads and public service announcements between now and the election. He says, for us to win this thing, we have to have long, sustained conversations with African Americans in their communities, in the ways in which they get their news about what we're going to do for them and about what we have done for them as a whole. And this, what we talked about yesterday, where once again, the Biden administration, either they don't get it or they just are not, they just don't care. Because you're saying it, and I take it as a personal affront that you're saying that you're gonna do it where Black people get their news, where they have their sustained conversation. It's with the Black press, with the Black press. The president needs to direct this now. Now, the candidate himself generally the campaign is generally the PACs that take out the ads and things like that. But he can direct them. Look, what are you doing with the Amsterdam News? What are you doing with the Chicago Defender? What are you doing with Black Press USA? We talked about this yesterday. And you know what? We should keep on talking about it unless and until they wake up. How do you say this? That you want sustained conversations with African Americans in their communities and the way in which they consume news. Whatever research you're doing and going to Black focused platforms, not Black owned platforms, that's once again where you are making a grave mistake. President Biden, Vice President Harris, Biden administration. This, as Prince would say, this is where you want to be. This is what you ought to see. Every chance I get to quote Prince is a good chance. But the DNC, we had Jamie Harrison at the red carpet at the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Leadership Awards 2 months ago. The DNC leader vowed, and we have it on tape, folks, that they were going to make sure the Black press was a priority. Haven't heard a peep from Jamie since. Haven't heard a peep from the campaign since. But you cannot have these conversations. Listen, you guys do what you want with your elections. But here's the thing. Don't give lip service. It has not worked. It has not worked. And the president knows it better than anyone. When he was running in 2020, I remember flying from Las Vegas with my wife to Philadelphia. And then from Philadelphia, it was attending an event. We was interviewing. I was with Dr. Chavis. He was there as well. And we were doing an interview with Michael Bloomberg in Las Vegas. Flew from Vegas, stopped in Philadelphia, which went home for a bit. A couple of hours later, got back on the plane and went to South Carolina. And a bunch of Black-owned newspaper publishers and media company owners in the NMPA, led by Dr. Chavis, sat down in South Carolina, in Charleston. I was there We have video and pictures and everything else. I was there. Biden shook our hands and talked to us for a couple of hours. Cedric Richmond stopped by, and we had a great conversation. And at that point, here's my point. At that point, Biden's campaign was about to just wilt. They were about to fold up the tent. They were losing big time. He meets with the black press. Big interview with the black press. Ran it on a live stream. Lots of people watched. A couple of hours later, he got the endorsement from the kingmaker, Jim Clyburn. He never looked back. His campaign was resuscitated, got him all the way to the White House. Understanding, Clyburn said to him, "You must promise and keep this promise that you were going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court." It was in a speech. He literally coerced or forced Biden to say that in the speech. And Biden, of course, did, to his credit, back it up by appointing Ketanji Brown Jackson. He appointed, he held this contest or whatever you want to call it for a black woman vice president. And we saw some of the best African American women in politics be interviewed for that position, vice president. And Kamala Harris emerged as, in the campaign's eyes, the best and the brightest of them. Of course, then a lot of black folks feel like they've since sidelined the vice president, which doesn't sit well, particularly with his strongest constituents, black women. You know, I cover politics, right? And so I don't get involved, but I cover it. And the thing is, even I, who's not a politician, who don't even care much about that stuff, understand how they have totally dropped the ball, messed things up, even as they have done, as we've said many times on this program, they've done more for black folks and the black community, this administration, than just about probably any other president ever. And that includes the only black president we've had, Barack Obama. But this idea of them, and I've seen the ads in black targeted media. I've seen the ads in mainstream media. But the last time I looked at Black Press USA, the last time I looked at the Washington Informant site, the last time I looked at the Defender site, the last time I looked at the Amsterdam News or the Afro or New Pittsburgh Courier or the Michigan Chronicle site, I did not see an ad from the Democrats. Did not see an ad from the Biden administration, from the Biden campaign, I should say. They can spin it however they want to spin it. When you have 230 African American owned newspapers and media companies together, you can't say that it doesn't have the reach. It doesn't have the what. Yeah, not only does it have the reach, but they've been calling us, and rightfully so, for almost 200 years now, 196 years, so almost 197 in February, the trusted voice, quote unquote, of the black community. That has not changed. So Austin Cooper writes in, only black simpletons would think Trump will better represent their interest in Biden. The White House and DNC had better invest money in the black press. And the problem is you have simpletons. The problem is you have individuals who look at Trump. We've heard it, whether, it sounds ignorant, but we've heard it. We got the stimmies, the $1,200 stimmy from Trump. His name was, and who was it that I just saw really in a really serious way break that down. Gosh, I can't remember who it was. Getting old, Power 96. But that individual who I'm trying to think of, it was a black celebrity. I don't know if it was a hip hop guy or someone, well, broke it down that how it sounds so absurd to say, oh, you know, we got the STEMI or whatever. But he said, but this is what you have to understand. That's all they see. When does the administration come into the community? Well, Trump didn't necessarily come into the community as this individual was saying. I wish I could remember um, him, but he said his name was on those checks. Y'all remember he signed those checks. They were giving food deliveries with his name on it too. He made sure to have his name on those things, signed them. And and for those, as Austin called them, simpletons, that's all they remember. Y'all heard that sexy red? Oh, we got the $1,200. Trump gave us the 1,200. Biden could say we gave you the Inflation Reduction Act, which is huge. We've invested almost $7 billion in HBCUs. That's huge. Didn't but the thing is, it doesn't resonate with a certain faction. Austin said it was a $1,200 ticket back to the plantation. One way ticket, he said. Well, those who can reason like an Austin Cooper understand that. Just like in the media, journalism now, which is unfortunate, we're told we have to write at like a sixth grade level for everybody to understand. That's insulting almost, but it's unfortunately factual. So you have to really explain and explain in a way that they get it. I tell you, Austin, we need again, not just the ad part, which is a big part, but once again, why won't the president? I mean, he doesn't do a lot of sit down interviews, granted. Why don't he sit down again with the black? It worked the first time. Think about it, the Biden administration. I know one person from the administration is watching. Think about it. When that campaign was about to fold in February of 2020, what did he do? He sat down with the black press of America, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the president and CEO, Dr. Chavis. You had Karen Carter Richards, who was the chair at the time there. Bobby Henry, who's now the chair, was there at the time. Jackie Hampton, Mississippi Link was there. Denise Rolock Barnes of the Washington Forum was there. Dr. Draper, Afro was there. So many were there. The powerhouses were there. And your campaign turned around instantly, and you rode that wave all the way to Pennsylvania Avenue. Power 96, I've always said Republicans do not want the majority of black votes. They want just enough to say we ain't racist. And there is Power 96 take on it. But the bottom line is you're not doing business with the black press. So you're not putting your money where your mouth is. It's empty speech. It's empty talk. And until then, and we have to call it out. I'm sorry. Y'all know we're gonna call people. We call black folks out. We got to call it out. You know what I'm gonna say next, right? I call Jay-Z out all the time. Does it matter to Jay-Z? Probably not. I'm sure. I mean, he hasn't reacted. So funny because I got a thing from his publicist the other day about not about him, but about some other artists, and it'll keep going into the trash bin until and unless this guy um, gives us the same play he gives mainstream. Um, that's just how I feel about it. Now, my bosses may feel different, and then I would have to do what they say, right? But I'm gonna still call them out. All right. Republicans, on the other hand, this is what's going on with Republicans. They're trying to spin the January 6th insurrection. Now that they want to subpoena Benny Thompson and others. from the January 6th Commission, who turned over a mountain of evidence to the DOJ, which really the evidence has led to has helped lead to 4 indictments and 91 criminal charges, felony charges against the twice impeached former president Donald Trump. They claim that hours of video now released. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but they've released hundreds of hours of video from the attack. Speaker Mike Johnson did it, the MAGA speaker who was with Trump at Mar-a-Lago yesterday, by the way, having some chow and doing whatever ungodly things that they do. They say Mike Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and those of that ilk, the right wing, far right wing MAGAs, say that it shows a peaceful protest and that it contradicts what Democrats, their narrative have been. It's not a Democratic narrative. The fact is, you went in, your people went into the Capitol and destroyed things, and with a noose saying you wanted to hang Trump's vice president, Mike Pence, and then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And now you want to change, say, see what they want to do and what they plan to do. Let's just call it what it is, right? David Youngblood said it should be called that. They want to get back in the office. This is Trump's folks. And these primaries, these debates, these Republican debates have been absurd. And even Trump has said, why are they even having it? I'm the choice. I'm the guy. Why even spend the money having these debates? And I can't disagree with him, because nobody's paying attention to him. It's like Charlie Brown speak. What is it? Want, want, want. That's all you hear. But they want to get Trump in office, and what they plan to do, and he said it. He wants to ensure a dictatorship. He wants to ensure that people know their places. He wants to shoot people in the street. They want to release all of those who have been convicted. Remember, law enforcement officers, 5 of them, I believe it was, lost their lives in that insurrection. But they want these people free. They don't want them to be held accountable. And he's going to, and just understand this. These are all federal indictments and federal convictions and federal plea deals. What does that mean? Why do I say that? It means that if they were able to get President MAGA back into office, he's going to pardon all of those people. And by pardoning them, it's not just they get to go home. It emboldens them even more. Now it's the wild, wild west. There are no laws, no restrictions anymore for, as Power 96 would say, for those who have the complexion for the protection. And those January 6th rioters, they probably would only leave Enrique in prison, right? Power 96. He pardoned everybody except Enrique. Enrique serving what, 30 years? He gonna make Enrique do 29 of those 30 years, and then at the last year pardon him. That's what's gonna happen with Enrique. Enrique is the very, very black Cuban leader of the Proud Boys, or former leader of the Proud Boys, in case you don't know. I know you all know him, Tario. But they want to say, and Marjorie Taylor Greene had the nerve to say, there needs to be investigations and accountability for all the lies, deceits, and lives ruined. You guys were the ones who ruined lives. Those 6 officers, 5 officers, as a result of that, lost their lives. And David says the debates, those Republican debates, are really for vice president. What they don't know is that none of them will be chosen because they are politicians. He's looking for a committed fascist. He's already said that he's considering Tucker Carlson for vice president. And these are the same people, oh, democracy, we can't let democracy die. And so Austin says if Trump loses next November, they will at a minimum, they will be at a minimum another insurrection. Well, here's the problem, and we're going to talk about this um, because here's the problem with that. They have set it up. They're setting it up. All of those judges that he picked, and then of course the Supreme Court now so politicized. They are setting it up so that even if he falls short in the vote total, you got Mike Johnson now in the position and he was the one who wanted to change the vote last time. He wanted to overturn the election last time. Now he's in a position to do so. Who's going to who's going to step up and try and stop them this time, based on everything you've seen now? Right? And then they're enacting all these laws, which takes us to our next point. The Federal Appeals Court on Monday ruled against a key tool used to enforce what? The Voting Rights Act, possibly setting up another Supreme Court showdown. And we know how that all went, right? In a ruling that springs from an Arkansas redistricting case, the 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that private entities cannot bring lawsuits under a provision of the law known as Section 2. It was a 2-1 decision. The judges said the text and structure of the voting rights statute shows that Congress did not give private plaintiffs the authority to sue. The appellate panel affirmed a 2022 ruling by a Trump-appointed federal judge in Arkansas that held only the U.S. Justice Department can bring Section 2 lawsuits. So that ruling, it runs counter to decades of legal practice. The vast majority of cases brought under the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits election rules that have the intent or effect of discriminating on the basis of race, are brought by private plaintiffs, with the Justice Department facing strained resources, we know, and other considerations that limit the number of such cases it files, uh, just a few each year. So the case at hand, it centers on a challenge that originally brought by the Arkansas chapter of the NAACP and the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. They challenged the state map. Again, we talk about next November. Well, by the time you get there, it won't even matter, right? Because all the maps have been gerrymandered, all of the voting laws have been um, assaulted, and then you got MAGA Mike at in charge of the House. And so this also comes right on the heels of the high-profile Alabama case in which the U.S. Supreme Court reaffirmed the use of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act in ordering that state to redraw its congressional map to guarantee more political power for Black voters. Well, the Supreme Court, even though they sided with the people of Alabama said, "We're not listening to you, Supreme Court." And they have ignored. How do you get away with ignoring the Supreme Court's decision? So when they did Roe v. Wade, what can people just ignore that? When they did the what was that, affirmative action, can you just ignore that? Well, Alabama says yes, and so far to date, heck, they just had an election which they went through um, same old maps. There's a car commercial going on right now. Are they paying us for that ad? um, anyway, once again, it goes back to our original headline, right? Biden, Black voters, Black press. It all comes back. Well, we're moving on to a little bit of entertainment slash crime news. You can't have entertainment news without it being connected to a crime these days, it seems, right? But Rihanna's man is in trouble. How do you be Rihanna's man and get in trouble? What's wrong with you, ASAP? ASAP Rocky appeared in court yesterday in Los Angeles where he was told that, dude, we have enough evidence to move forward with this case. He had fired a gun, allegedly fired a gun at a former friend and collaborator outside a Hollywood hotel 2 years ago. The judge he heard evidence that that ASAP, who is the father of two children with Rihanna, he decided that you have to stand trial. You used as the judge said, a semi-automatic firearm at the W Hotel in Hollywood on November 6, 2021. They say he pointed a gun at Terrell Ephron, who he used to be really good friends with. And in a confrontation soon after occurred, and ASAP fired a couple of shots at him, grazing his knuckles and left him with minor injuries. Earlier this month, Efron had testified that he and ASAP were close friends as teens, along with the other members of the ASAP Collective, which, they were a group of New York high school students who wanted to make music and pursue other art forms. And ASAP, of course, has done it all, right? I mean, he's had some hits, got hit music, is a model, a sought after model with one of the most sought after women in the world. He said their friendship lasted until well after Rocky became a star, but it began to disintegrate after he felt that ASAP had failed to follow through on promised business ventures and had neglected the other members of the high school collective who were having difficulties in their lives. Well, see, and this is where you gotta walk away ASAP. Now he probably understands that their difficulties, these are high school friends. I don't, this is not about, oh, he's forget where he come from. He's not responsible to take care of grown men. I don't care what anybody says. He's not responsible for them. So maybe when they were younger, yeah, if I make it, I'll do this. Or if you make it, you do. There's, it doesn't. I'm gonna say something wrong, aren't I, Greer? But the tensions came to a head when the shots were fired in 2021. Of course, Rocky has pleaded not guilty. It's two felony counts of assault with a semi-automatic firearm. I think, is a good debate to have, though. Maybe we have that debate one day. Is he responsible? He had a little group before they left high school, and they were allegedly vowed to always look after each other, work together, whatever. A couple of them fell on hard times, and they apparently, the rest of them fell on hard times anyway, and they apparently felt that Rocky should be reaching back. That's up for debate, isn't it? That's up for debate. But we must have that conversation. The thing about and so here's an ironic thing about this. You remember a couple 2020 when Trump was in office, ASAP was locked up in a jail in Sweden, and Trump I guess Kanye West had mentioned to Trump, to help ASAP out of this jail in Sweden or Switzerland, wherever he was at. And ASAP had said that made it worse. He thought it was going to make it worse that Trump publicly spoke out he said he couldn't believe he doesn't know Trump. He said he couldn't believe Trump said his name publicly at a news conference. And he's like, he winced when he was in the jail and heard that President Trump had mentioned him, the then President Trump. Well, ironically, ASAP's lawyer is none other than Joe Tacopino. And who's Joe Tacopino? He's Donald Trump's lawyer. Ah, it's 6 degrees of separation, isn't it? And speaking of debates, here's something that is interesting to me, Austin Cooper. Um, so earlier this year, this past summer, New York police descended upon this seemingly innocent businessman in Manhattan. Federal authorities and U.S. Marshals and all. It was on. They captured the arrest on video, and it was very very non-eventful but dramatic, still nonetheless. And on the streets of Manhattan, his name was Rex, or his name is Rex Harriman, aka the Gilgo Beach Killer, and found out, well, at least he's alleged to be responsible for the deaths of many prostitutes on Long Island. Family, apparently, according to investigators, they had found that every time he killed a prostitute, his family was away. His wife and kid was away. Well, now, people want to, the family only through lawyers have made statements. The wife and the child, the wife did file for divorce, and the divorce is still pending, as his child is pending. In this case, he's accused of multiple counts of murder. And they have not spoken to the media. Media surrounded their little home out on Long Island constantly. Police tape remnants of police activity still because the police raided the home. Well, here's why they haven't talked. They have a deal, a seven-figure deal for a documentary in which they will only talk to NBC Peacock for the documentary. The documentary follows the family throughout the suspected killer's trial. It will follow them throughout the trial. And the lawyers for the family, I should say, are each getting $400,000 apiece for this documentary. So the lawyers are not even talking to the media because the NBC said, you're going to save everything for this documentary. And I just think it's interesting. This case is not even, it's not necessarily solved until there's a guilty verdict, right? But these guys, the wife, the child, the lawyers, they have struck a deal. They're filming them. Every move they make is being filmed like a reality show. And I don't know how to feel about this. This guy, so it does fall outside of the New York's Son of Sam law, and the Son of Sam law says that a person cannot profit off of crimes. Um, but she has filed for divorce, so obviously any financial gain is what they're saying is separate from anything that he might gain or anything he could possibly gain. So New York can't seize the money for the victims or the victims' families here. And again, I just don't know, guys, how you feel about this. Power 96 says, I believe the whole family was involved. he, he says white folks will make money off death in a minute. Can't paint anybody with a broad brush. Power 96. But there was some talk, though. It's so interesting because there was talk that, and the investigators did originally believe that the wife, at least the wife, knew more than what she was letting on. It's like, how do you live with a serial killer and not know or suspect anything? This guy's out there. He's a businessman. He works in Manhattan by day and comes home and goes out. Oh, honey, I'm gonna go take a walk. And every time he took that walk, he came back with blood on his hands. And, you know, they say she didn't know. So, and This is not the first time, though, that a family of a suspected serial killer is going to be profiting. The family of the University of Idaho murderer, Brian Koberger, also have been asked to do a documentary. Well, reports are that they so far have declined several offers. Maybe they're just waiting for the right offer, or maybe they just are not interested. Seems like it would be kind of difficult. I just don't know. I just couldn't. Um, just couldn't. I can't see it. Put it that way. I just can't see it. Family member commits such a vile, heinous acts with an S at the end, and now you're getting paid for it. It's almost. I know it's not what they're doing, but it's almost like you've endorsed what he's done. You taking the cash and saying, "Look, they dead, so what?" I don't know. But that is up for debate. Whew. As we said, lots of news today. Be careful in your travels for those who are traveling. The AAA says that it's going to be the third most traveled holiday in history this Thanksgiving holiday weekend. So be careful in your travels. Some bad weather is also bad weather, meaning rain is scheduled or is predicted, I should say, throughout most of the country, really, even in on the West Coast. So, folks, drive like you got some sense, and those who are taking plane trips, give the TSA a little bit of a give them a little bit of a break. Don't give them a hard time. Don't give them a hard time. Make travel as easy as possible. Get to the airport early. Try 3 hours early because it's going to be lines galore. And those driving again, AAA says those on the road. I mean, look, get your gas early. It's gonna be looking like, according to AAA, looking like what it looked like in New York during the gas shortage back in the 70s. The lines are gonna be long. So bring your patience with you more than anything else. If you don't bring anything else with you, bring patience and be kind to one another. And we will see you again tomorrow.